Storms in life are inevitable. Jesus says, we will get through these storms together. It seems that we are always in the midst of a political campaign. Pollsters are constantly sampling the electorate and making predictions about who will win. Campaign managers read the polls and design ads to try to change the current predictions. Predicting the future is now the science of probability, carried out by statisticians. In last week's gospel, people wanted to know what would happen after death. Jesus answered, affirming that there is life after death. Then he failed to give any details. Rather, he spoke of angels, resurrected children, burning bushes, and a God in whom all are alive. In other words, he spoke of a relationship that we will have with God in eternity. In today's gospel, people are trying to get Jesus to predict the future, to give them some information about it. They could sense that a storm was on the horizon. If they knew when it was coming, then they would have an edge. They could get ready. Jesus lived during the Roman occupation of Israel. That occupation resulted in the total destruction of Jerusalem and the temple, the heart of the nation, the connection between heaven and earth. When people asked Jesus when this would happen, it was no idle curiosity. They wanted to be prepared. If we know the future, it gives us some sense of control. Knowing the future takes some of the terror out of it. We are just like the people in Jesus' day. We suffer storms as well. These storms are always an intense experience. Just as a hurricane can reconfigure the earth, so storms reconfigure the landscape of our lives. They even threaten our connection to heaven, our relationship with God. Against our better judgment, we too are tempted to listen to someone who claims to know the future. Everyone wants to know what is coming around the corner. Storms in life are inevitable. Jesus says, we will get through this together. Similar to last week, Jesus gives an answer to the crowd. The temple will be torn down. But when? Jesus answers by speaking of false prophets, wars, natural disasters, disease, signs in the sky, persecutions, death. And still, it will not be the end. In the midst of all these storms in life, Jesus says, I will give you the words to say, and not a hair on your head will be destroyed. Important to note, he does not say, not a hair on your head will be harmed. He says, it will not be destroyed. In other words, to our anxiety about the future and future events, Jesus says, I will be with you through it all. Even if you get killed, not a hair on your head will be destroyed. Instead of telling us the future, Jesus prepares us to bring meaning into our future suffering. What is more important to know? The exact type of suffering we will encounter, or the meaning of our suffering? Suffering in life is inevitable. There will be loss and betrayal. Do not overreact. Jesus will help us to understand the meaning of it. Suffering will draw us closer to him. Death and resurrection is the pattern that all disciples must follow. After the world has done its worst to us, not a hair on our head will be destroyed. Following Jesus will help us become resilient. Malachi, in the first reading, reminds us that when we are injured or suffer, it is important to know what side God is on. God is on the side of justice and healing. When we suffer, when storms ravish our lives, we always want to find ourselves on God's side, the side of justice and healing. This is the side that Jesus is on. Those who predict the future today are pollsters. Jesus walks with us into the future, not predicting the future, but filling the future with meaning. Storms in life are inevitable. Jesus says we will get through this together.